Thank you, baby.
According to the city, that's unprofessional will be shining.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, y'all not
For the
shiny.
glare. I mean,
Y'all, it just looks.
how do they look on your
This,
app?
this not up there.
It's not on there.
It's live now.
It's a little delay. Okay, no, looks good to me.
Okay, what if you move the light here, like in the like, can you,
I'm gonna bring it up.
yeah, that's what I mean. I'll turn off Santa Curti. Is that better? Amatep, Karateb, Gabrielle.
Yes, that's YouTube.
Just, Facebook.
Let me see. Look pretty good. Alright. Let's-
Can
can we
somebody
see
pull up
YouTube?
YouTube so we can see what it looks like?
Yeah, my thing is still moving up on here. You got
Do our Curti. If Curti says we look royal, so we shouldn't have to, we don't need to worry about it no more. It's okay. Cause I don't think it's gonna be cut off when they pull it up on the screen
Okay.
on YouTube. I don't think it's gonna be.
Jason Holmes, Old Tenalton.
So, yeah. There's this part.
Haruna for everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our regularly, what's the matter?
Just leave it.
Okay,
Right, if you want it, you're a professional, it's you.
Which one is YouTube?
that one's YouTube. Alton Harmony.
Old Tenalton.
Thank you all for joining us this day, this Haruna for our regularly scheduled communion. In just a moment, we are going to do our opening prayer, and then we will proceed with roll call. Okay, so just give us one more moment, and then we'll get started. Alton Kaiti. Peace and blessings, Robert, from across the pond.
Old Tenalton, Anitra.
To our Ranu, our elder. Okay, you ready to get started? All right, we'll get started with our opening prayer, and we will begin by saying Amatu and Panatir, Sawek Tuamens and Panatir, Aul Duauma, Kati Paharu. The translation, give yourself to Netta daily, keep yourself for Netta daily, and may tomorrow be as today. We give homage to the Creator, who is like our Father and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything yet is no thing, who comes to us in the form of the Neteru Ra, who is the light of the heavens, light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibility in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akaru, true of thought, word, and deed, to our highest reality, and in our moments of crisis and the dark nights of the soul when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down, so it is and so shall it be. Everyone say, Amen Ma'at.
Amen Ma'at.
Ma'akaru.
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 Okay. So roll call. Where is everybody? I'll give my aunt everybody. Where y'all joining us from? Yeah. Ranub is joining us from the center of the universe, Brooklyn, New York.
That's right.
That's what's up. Yes, yes. All right, where y'all at? Ashe, Ashe. Yes, Cleveland, Ohio's in the building. Houston, Texas. Yes, Uncle my aunt Ashron. Philadelphia's here. Queens is here. Queens, New York. Newcastle, Delaware is here. Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Lincoln, Nebraska's here. Capitol Heights, Maryland is here. That's what's up, the DMV. Columbus is here. More Columbus is here. Yes. Yes, yes. Where else? Where else? Columbia, Maryland. Madison, New Jersey. Up the street and around the corner. Yes. Yes, yes. Brooklyn, East New York. Yes. Hamden, Connecticut. Uncle my aunt Larry. Spartanburg, South Carolina. Kansas.
City.
Nice. Alton, Eileen. Alton, Latundra. Yes.
That's the Sue on here?
Uncle Manu. Yes, yes. San Diego's in the building. Ashe. Ghana. Accra. Joining us from the capital city, Accra. Tuaneta. West Africa's in the house. I love that. Lower East Side of Manhattan. New Orleans is in the building. Uncle Ma'at. Yes. Atlanta, Georgia. Lovely. Memphis, Tennessee. Yes, yes. Far and wide. Houston, Texas. Johannesburg. Yes, it's so good to see you again, Masego. San Diego's here. Memphis, Tennessee is here. Yes.
This is YouTube here?
This is Facebook here. This is YouTube. Mhm.
YouTube quit on us. Ran out of people.
They got. They let us know they let us know they was here. They let us know they was here. Yes, yes. So y'all know we dual cast every communion. So we got our Facebook Live going, we got our YouTube Live going. So we got both screens in front of us so we can see all y'all comments, see where everybody's chiming in from. I see Kathy's in Camden, New Jersey today. Good to see you. Yes. Yonkers, New York is here. Nice to see you. Yeah. Yes, yes. So Duaneta, so grateful, so grateful to have you all join us today, for you all to hold space for this and say and mark the date, save the time, make it important, make it necessary for you to be here, for you to prioritize it, for you to show up, for you to decide that this is the way you want to spend your Sunday. You want to spend your Sunday with us. Duaneta, we're grateful.
Right.
We're grateful.
Right.
We're grateful, and we're fortunate to get the opportunity to spend some time with you all today too. So, a quick announcement for me. Next Sunday is our first time Kemet orientation. The next one, the second one that we're going to have for our winter/spring 2021 first time Kemet course. So, for those of you who are not familiar with first time Kemet, this is our introductory course. This course is meant for anyone who perhaps up till now you've been like self-studying. You've been, sort of figuring out what books you want to read on your own. You've been going from YouTube video to YouTube video, and you just need some grounding in the culture. You need a grounded perspective about how to live this life, how to honor the Neteru. Like, what are the Neteru, right? Like, you want some clarity, you want some grounding, you want some of your questions answered, you need some perspective, you need some things clarified, and you want to know more about this culture, about this way of life from people who live this life, from people who walk this path, and from people who prioritize Ma'at in all things. Mm-hmm. So the first time Kemet course is for you, if that is something that you're trying to do, is to get more grounded in this culture and this walk, and really decide whether or not this walk is for you, because there's definitely a difference between intellectual study and the actual spiritual experience, right? And like living a culture. And we could be anthropologists and we could study. But when you lived in the culture, like you're not observing from the outside, you're immersing yourself into it. So first time Kemet for us is the first step in how it is that you immerse yourself into this culture, how you immerse yourself into this way of life. It is a necessary first step for anyone who might want to be initiated into the Temple of Anu. It gives you the information and the insight that you need to know whether or not the temple is the right spiritual home and the right spiritual community for you. And it gives you the foundation that you need to know to decide whether or not this walk this Africa-Medic spiritual walk is the walk for you. So next Sunday we're having orientation to introduce you to the course so you can learn about what the course will teach you, what are our course topics, what are some of the things we're going to go over, who's teaching the course, what are some of the things that are expected of students. It'll give you guys a chance to ask those questions and to learn more and to make those decisions about whether or not that's something you want to do. So we're hosting orientation on Zoom. Anyone who's interested in attending may do so. Send us an email or a DM to let us know you're interested in getting that Zoom link or interested in getting the course brochure. Come with your questions. Come, ready to talk to us about what you're interested in, what you're looking for. We can find out if it's a good fit. We're going to start First Down Kemet in February. So we want to make sure you all get into this if this is what you need and if you're ready for it. We want to make sure you get into this in time. So again, send us an email, templeofanew@gmail.com, or send us a private message on Facebook or Instagram. Let us know that you're ready. Let us know that you're interested. We'll make sure you get the course brochure and the Zoom link for next Sunday's orientation. It's going to be next Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so we look forward to having you all join us then. All right, Eileen, we're going to make sure you get that information. Send us a DM, okay, honey? All right, good. I think that's it. Did you have anything else you wanted to share? Any other announcements? No? Okay. All right, good. Akima Imani Imhotep, it's good to see you too, darling.
No, he said he was excited to see me on Facebook.
Well, what I see Imhotep all the time on Facebook, so I'm excited to see him too.
Please, brother. I didn't know who that was. He was like, I gotta sit down with this. I'm like, who's this? And invoke him to sit down with me.
Yes. It's been a long time since we've seen him, so he just want to see you. That's all. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. So today, I want to talk. Actually, I want to talk a little bit about inauguration this week. This actually feels. We're gonna start with that. You believe in that? Actually, I'll go ahead and start. I'll answer that question first. Like, no, not really. First and foremost, I think those of you who watched The Crook and the Flail when we were hosting episodes of The Crook and the Flail back in the spring, y'all know that we don't subscribe to and we don't buy into the dictates or the standards of this society. Like we ain't American, we Kemetic. And so those is our virtues. That's what we believe in. That's who we are. So we stay in tune and aware of what is happening, because what is happening affects us, right? It affects us as people who live on this land. And we need to know what we need to do to protect ourselves, preserve ourselves, and to stay focused and to stay grounded. We need to stay ahead of things, right? It's like hindsight is 20/20, but how can you have foresight? How can you have insight? How can you stay ahead of what's happening so that those things don't hit you by surprise and slap you and catch you unawares when you wasn't paying attention? We have a responsibility to pay attention for our own sake, for the sake of our children, for the sake of our futures, and for the lives we're building. We have a responsibility to pay attention. So I pay attention, and I paid attention to the inauguration this week. I paid attention throughout the entire election cycle, to be honest. And I walk away from the election. I don't necessarily feel like happy, proud, or excited about Joe Biden becoming president. Like, I ain't necessarily happy about it, or I don't have like these high expectations about what he's going to do. I want to be clear. And I saw a lot of conscious people on Facebook really kind of going in on Black people for celebrating the inauguration. And I feel like there's a difference between celebrating and paying attention. I know a lot of conscious people who paid attention to the inauguration and who watched it and who stayed in tune with it. That's not necessarily the same as celebrating it, right? But I also wasn't concerned about people who did choose to celebrate it. It didn't hurt my feelings. It didn't bother me, because when I took a step back and I watched the inauguration, I recognized that I'm watching a ritual. I'm watching a ritual proceeding in action. And that ritual that they did, the inauguration ritual that they did, they do every 4 to 8 years. They do it to reinforce their principles, their values. They do it to reinforce their identity. They do it to reinforce their culture. It's the same reason why we as African people perform and engage in ritual. We do it to reinforce our values. We do it to reinforce our culture. And we do it to reinforce our identity. So, see, I wasn't threatened by their inauguration ritual because I have my own rituals. I have a culture, I have values, and I have an identity. So it didn't bother me on any level to see them do that. But it reminded me of the purpose of ritual. It reminded me of the necessity of ritual. It reminded me of the power of ritual. See, what you recognize when you watch the inauguration as an African person and you take that measure of perspective, you recognize that these people really do believe in their myths.
That's right.
They believe in their story. They believe in themselves. They believe everything that they got to say about themselves. They think that those things is true. We are hard-working people who came here with nothing. We found this empty land. Then we were able to, with our own bare hands, we brought it and made it into something, and we built this country. We lifted ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we used to be great, and we're gonna be great again, and we're American, and we have reason to be proud, and like they believe all of those things.
Even
all,
in contradiction to what's really going on.
Even in contradiction to what's really going on, it makes no difference whether or not those things are reflected in reality. The truth is that's the story that they tell themselves about who they are. And they believe those things. And in order for the myth or the structure of America to continue to persist, they have to reinforce their belief in that over and over and over again. They have to continually tell themselves these stories about who they are. They have to continually encourage us and other people to invest in this myth, to invest in this belief, and to believe these things, to invest in their values, to invest in their culture, and to invest in their identity. And so that's what they did. They're like, remember, we got to come together because we are Americans. And so they performed this ritual. They invested in this ritual it's an investment in themselves. So I took a step back. I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, do we invest in ourselves like this? Do we have the same measure of fervor and passion when we go into our rituals? Do we go into our rituals? I guess that's the first question. Do you show up to the rituals? Do you do your rituals? Because people who have culture are not threatened by other people's cultures. I'm going to say that again. If you know who you are, then you're not threatened by somebody else who knows who they are. If you know what you believe in, then you are not threatened by somebody else's beliefs. If you are solid in your stance about how you choose to live, then you are not threatened by someone else choosing to live differently from you. The only reason why the rituals and the myths and the stories and the beliefs of America bother us as conscious African people is because we are lost. Is because we don't know who we are, and because we are not grounded in our own identity. So it's not an opportunity for us to condemn America. It's an opportunity for us to claim ourselves. It's not an opportunity for us to be angry about them being who they are. It's an opportunity for us to choose to be who we're meant to be. That's what this was about. Those of us who chose to be bystanders and chose to be observers of that ritual, it was supposed to remind us to go inward into who we are. It was supposed to be a reminder for us to be active and to activate our own power. That's what that was an opportunity for us to do. So as African people, we have those questions to ask ourselves. What do we value? What do we live by? And who are we? Knowing our values, knowing our culture, and being solid in our identity, those are the virtues and the principles that hold us up day in and day out. The way that we reinforce that is through our ritual.
That's right.
When we pour libation to our ancestors, we confirm our values, we act in our culture, and we reinforce our identity. When we get up every day and we do du'a'u and we do our prayers, we activate our altars, we make offerings to the Neteru, that is affirming our values, that is acting out our culture, and that is solidifying our identity. That's our divine charge. When we show up to the Feast of Sekhmet, when we show up to Weper and Pet, when we make our commitment at Henek Ma'at, when we recite the 42 laws of Ma'at and recommit ourselves to living in that way, every time we show up to ritual, every time we engage in ritual, we are confirming what we believe, confirming what our values are. We are confirming who it is that we choose to be, what our identity is, and we are confirming and affirming how it is that we choose to live our lives.
That's right.
Period. So when we don't do those things, when we don't do du'a'u, when we don't pour libation to our ancestors, when we don't show up and celebrate Weper and Pet, when we don't show up at the Feast of Sekhmet, when we don't recite the 42 laws of Ma'at, when we don't say our prayers when we get out of bed in the morning, when we don't give our offerings to the Neteru every day, then we are saying that we don't know who we are. We are saying we don't have a culture that we stand in, and we are saying we don't have any values that really matter to us. And I don't really think that's who we trying to be. Like, definitely not. Those of y'all who hear it in the righteous and respectable chat, that ain't who y'all trying to be. I know it's not. So I wanted to just take this opportunity to offer that perspective about the value and the importance of ritual, about the value and the importance of grounding ourselves in our ritual as a way of defining who we are, in a way of reinforcing who we are, and a way of building confidence in who we are, confidence and connection. Those are some really important things, really, really important things, that we have confidence that our ancestors support us and protect us, that we have confidence in our capacity to cultivate the divinity within and to allow that divinity to act and live and breathe in and through us. The fact that we have that confidence, the fact that we have that connection to those things day in and day out, that's necessary for us. And it's there whether we know it's there or not. But the ritual reminds us. The ritual reaffirms us. The ritual supports us. The ritual rebuilds us. The ritual keeps us on track. Because this world will very quickly and very easily cause us to skew. Stuff happens every single day that causes us to veer off track. It causes us to lose sight of where we are and where we're going. We get distracted easily. We get off basis easily. We get upset easily. And then we forget what we're supposed to be grounded in. The answer to that is always to go back to ritual. The answer to that is always to go back to the practice of your culture, the reinforcing of your identity, and the affirmation of your values. That is the answer to that. Day in and day out. You do not find that answer in anything else. Period. The answer to who you are and how it is that you stay on the straight and narrow path of Ma'at is always going to be found in the culture. In the culture. So let's not be threatened by the way that they reaffirm their culture and that they grounded themselves in their principles. That's their business. And this is our business, right? Like grounding ourselves in the virtues of Ma'at, that's our business. Supporting and uplifting our ancestors so they can continue to support and uplift us, that's our business. So let's be about our divine business. And let's pay attention to what happens around us so that we can learn from it, so that we can be ahead of it, so that we can know what we need to know to protect and preserve ourselves, right? But let's do our divine work. Let's do our divine work. I'm going to read this passage from, you guys know that we often read from this book, Selections from the Hosea, compiled by Milana Karenga. This particular passage is on page 83, and it's titled Song for the Priest of Ra Neferhotep. It says, generations pass away since the first day of creation, and other generations come in their places. that just reminds us that the cycles of time are never ending. The cycles of time are never ending. The splendor of Ra rises in the morning and goes to rest in the west. Men beget, women conceive, and every nostril breathes air. Day dawns, and the newborn goes to their appointed places. Celebrate the days of rejoicing. Put the finest scents to your nose, and garlands of lotus flowers around your neck and shoulders, and on the body of your beloved sister who sits beside you. Set song and music before you, and set all evil things behind you. This is a reminder, this passage is a reminder of how it is that we have to engage in ritual. Because what happens in the world, what do they say? Nothing new under the sun. It's all happened before. It's all going to happen again. But that doesn't mean we don't have reason to celebrate. That doesn't mean that we should not ground ourselves in our ritual. That doesn't mean that we should not do the sacred and divine work that needs to be done. It shows us how much that work has to be done in order to prepare and open the way for the next generation, because the next generation is coming. It's all cyclical. What we do here now and today affects the power and the presence of the people who come after us, and it defines how it is that we live ourselves into the promise of our ancestors. Our sister Amanda Gorman, she said, while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. Wasn't that about our ancestors? We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, and our descendants will look at us for their power and their protection. So when we do what we need to do to preserve and empower ourselves, we are empowering our lineage for generations that we haven't even yet realized. So doing the ritual, engaging in ceremony, these things are not just about us. It is about how the culture lives and breathes on long before us and long after us. This is the work that we have to do. This is what we're here for. So, Dua Nanta, that's what I wanted to share today.
It was very powerful, very pertinent message, especially coming into this new part of the calendrical year. It's now time to take ourselves, our practices, to a higher level, or even more so a deeper level. So you got to go higher and deeper at the same time. So I want to touch on some of that stuff, but I want to touch on a few things according to the reading of the year. Remember, all of the messages in here are always going to be themes for the new year. That's where we teach. We always teach from that base. So as y'all know, after about, how long Facebook been around?
18 years?
18 years. So in 18 years, I'm just getting on Facebook. So since the last time we spoke, so I'm close to up to 700 friends, and I got like 100 so just on hold. So in taking to the reading of the year, I managed my ego and I minded my mind. So I'm deciding not to focus on the number of people, but the quality of people.
Yeah.
Because everything ain't for everyone. So I'm looking at this 100 so people, and I'm just side-eyeing them, just like, because I'm looking at the profiles now. I'm not just clicking, okay, click, these people ain't my friend, these people are not friends. So I'm looking and I'm like side-eyeing people. I'm like, why they want to be my friend? I don't think I would want to be their friend in real life and stuff. So, and you know me, I'm on there, I'm posting my positive inspirational quotes and stuff like that, because you don't always want to all of this other stuff on your timeline or your news feed. Some people, they post some of the most conscious things then on their daily, what's that thing they call it, their storyline. Like one brother's, he's posting some profound things on Facebook, then I'm looking at his storyline that's coming up in my daily feed, and this women twerking on TikTok and stuff. I'm just like, yo, what the heck? So I'm looking at certain people, what they post, I'm just like, yo, a lot of our people need therapy. They need therapy and healing and stuff like that. But nevertheless, what I've noticed is there's a high volume of continental Africans that's been reaching out to me. So there's brothers from Burkina Faso, Ghana, Nigeria, the Congo, South Africa, and even Kemet. And even the brothers and sisters overseas in France is like all over these, and as well as the Caribbean, the Rastas, and even like Israelites, Moors, people, like everybody's been reaching out and trying to connect. So I'm not going to perpetuate that myth that Africans are not our people. I won't perpetuate that. So I'm looking at them. Many of them have Kemetic names and they follow Kemetic type themes in their life. Their rhetoric and their philosophy is very similar to ours. So the only thing different than us is time, location, and experience. But genetically, we're still all linked together. So yes, over here now we are a new nation because of our experience, but genetically we're still all linked. Now, according to so-called African philosophy, if you can't go 10 generations back, you can't say that you have knowledge of self, because who you are and your genetics was making up your current psychology on who you are is coming from 10 generations back. So now us over here, most people can only go 3 to 4 generations back. And so we're constantly getting in this conversation about our relationship to Africans, continental Africans. Some people try to say, well, those ain't your people. They don't even like us over here. And unfortunately, fortunately, that's not my experience and stuff like that. I get along very well with them. So just because we don't like what they did or what happened or went down 400 years ago or several hundred years ago does not negate them from being your family. We all have family members, and some family members are doing some crazy stuff, some nonsensical stuff, but there's no way we could stop our blood connection one way or another. So of course, all continental Africans are not ideal. Heck, even so-called African Americans are not ideal in our behavior, how we even treat one another. So of course, you have some continental Africans that dream of being African American. Let that sink in. Some continental Africans think or want to be more African American than us. They think we messed this thing up over here. And they be like, I'll show these African Americans how to really be an African American. And then we have some so-called African Americans feel like we could be more African than continental African. So it's almost like a true transmigration of souls going on. So the continental Africans be like, y'all can have that culture, I'm trying to make some money. While African Americans are like, y'all can have this money and this American dream, this is BS, I want my culture. So we're doing kind of the opposite. So I noticed that when you come across continental Africans, if you're a culture, they don't have a problem with you. It's only when they don't feel like you have a cultural base to relate from, that's when the problem comes. Because I believe that the ones that's reaching out to me online, if you look at my quotes, I'm talking about ancestors and things. That's in our DNA. Ancestor veneration is in our DNA. So in the African spiritual philosophy, we tend to talk about God or the deity as well as the ancestors kind of at the same time. And they relate with that. And they be like, that brother knows. So when they believe that you know and you're coming from a familiar cultural base, they automatically embrace you as brothers and sisters. They adopt you, whether you're from that tribe or their people or not. If you show some signs of the code, which is culture, they have no problem. Them, just like everybody else, if you're seeking validation, that becomes a turnoff. When you get around people that's insecure in who they are and they're looking for your validation, you be like, go ahead with that. Whatever, but when they find some sign of a code, you into your culture, you into your dress, you speak the language or one of the many languages and stuff like that, they warm up quickly and embrace you. Like we go to the African restaurant, they love you over there. Like what's your experience about the Hemet thing? The interview. I mean, I'm bringing you to the cooks and everything. In the back.
There's an African restaurant like around the corner from here, and we eat from there like every Sunday just about. Mm-hmm. And so when I go pick up food, they be like, "Oh, it's you!" Actually, I went there one time and I didn't have on my white, and they were like, "You didn't have temple today? Why you don't have on your white?" So I was like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah, so they did take me in the kitchen. They introduced me to the cook, so I know all of them in there. Like the waitresses all know my name and everything like that. And so they just be like, they expect me now. Yeah. So
like she knows her culture. I can relate. I have a place to talk to her from.
Yeah.
And stuff. So when you demonstrate your culture, they have no problem. It's just certain so-called African Americans, when they don't seem culturally grounded, they don't know who you are. You become a foreign spirit to them. They be like, I don't know who you are. Till you show me you know who you are, I'm not gonna play this game with you. Keep it moving. So some ask this question. I think some of y'all even get asked this question. They said, some people say, why do you bypass all of your ancestors over here for the ancient ones? You ever heard that before?
True.
Like we've been over here 500 years, or at least 500 years. Why y'all going to Africa and way back to the beginning of the time? What do y'all think is the proper? Like, how would you answer that question?
Well, first of all, I don't feel like that's accurate. I don't feel like we do go over our ancestors. I feel like that's a misconception that people who are outside of our culture have. It's like lookership. Is that the word that they use?
Yeah.
Like you think that that's what you see, or you think that you know something, so you've made a decision or a determination based off what you think you see. But we actually in our culture do a lot to venerate not only West Africa, but also our ancestors that we like, our direct lineage right here and now, and then also connection to West Africa as well. Ultimately, though, what we teach in First Hour Kemet, plug for the class, is that people seek the culture, people seek the community that resonates with them. Remember, like that's the key. So like we are Kemetic, and we decided to be a part of this community because this is what resonates with us. This is the frequency that matches who we are.
That's right.
This is the place that's going to help us to become our best and brightest selves. This is the path that speaks to our spirit and that helps us to prepare ourselves and live ourselves into our divine purpose. So we're not skipping over anything. In fact, one of our main things is about encouraging people to find the path that works for them. Like, don't just join the temple off of one experience. Like, no, make sure you sure that this resonates with you. Check out Ifa, check out the Akan tradition, check out Santeria, check out whatever other temples, shrines, houses that you need to check out in order to know that you at the place that's really gonna serve your spirit, because that's what it's about.
That's the answer, y'all. She done stole the community. So, in essence, I think that the only response is, why did you have to choose?
Right.
Who said you had to choose your current ancestors over the ancient ones? Who said you had to choose the ancient ones over the current? We speak all of their names. We need all of that. In fact, like each one of us have like 3,000 some ancestors going way back to South Central Africa. It goes back to the E1B1A and E1B1A1 or something like that, South Africa. So you can't landlock us to West Africa, because in reality, those West African cultures that they say we come from don't claim that they come from that area. Most of them, either Ghana and Nigeria, say they come from the east of Africa.
Right.
So don't try to landlock us into West Africa when the origins come from South Central Africa. So don't even try to landlock us into Kemet. That's why we say Hapi Iteru.
Right.
Hapi Iteru is the Nile Valley culture, which understands that its origin is in the south, which is giving acknowledgement to our common ancestor in the south that seeded both West Africa as well as East Africa. That is the true Smai Tawi.
Yes.
So actually we call on all of them, so don't pick just one. So we call on the ancient ones to come uplift our current ones, because our current ones in the past 500 years have been going through some stuff. There's a lot of hurt ancestors. So we call on the ancient ones who haven't experienced this, what they call the ma'afa that we've experienced. So they have, some of them, the ones that we're calling, have a very wholesome, high vibrational frequency. We're calling them to uplift our current ancestors, because stuck ancestry is no good. So when we uplift, when we feed and empower our ancestors, both the ancient as well as the current, in return we're uplifting, venerating, and feeding ourselves. We need all of that because your ancestors is in your DNA. So we need all of that power. So now in the year of the Neb Heru 2020, remember we're talking about the reading of the year. Remember the hashtag is mind your mind and manage your ego. So let's stop all the I'm tired of it personally, all the blackity black business. Like, why are we trying to out black each other? And then, so we keep creating new ways of saying black, whether we African, whether we Moorish or whatever. Everybody's trying to out black or out melanate, out melanize each other. And what's interesting is everyone's so-called woke right now. Even the Christians are woke right now. Everybody has some basic respect and love for the melanation of our skin and melanated people. But we still have different definition of what it is, and we're still arguing over who's black enough or who's African enough. And it's just, we're belaboring the point at this point. So we can't criticize, condemn, and complain people into their growth. So if it's Christianity or the Moorish thing or the Islamic thing or the Kemetic thing or the Ifa thing or the Ghana thing, if that's the thing that's bringing the best version of yourself, then so be it, because the community benefits when we're both at our highest. The community benefits and stuff. So we have to, once we get into this thing of making jokes or clowning people about how they dress or the hats and things that they wear, that's getting into triviality. We have to go from contrasting ourselves to learning how to respect diversity. They say that Africans are the most genetically diverse people on the planet. So if we're the most genetically diverse people on the planet, then spiritually and culturally, we're the most diverse people on the planet also. Why are we having these arguments into forcing each other to say truth the way we want the truth to be said? So it's not clothes or the name that we call God is not the thing that imprisoned us. It is the bad intentions of people that imprisoned us or got us into this sad state it is. So us dressing African or dressing this other way or calling God whatever is not the thing that's going to free us. It's our hearts and our minds that need to be cleaned up. And it doesn't matter if your God name was Shabba Dabba Doo. If you understand the different, the serious mystical implications of that divine force and source, then that's the thing that's going to empower you. So I know some Sufis that have more power than some Kemetic people. So the Kemetic people are very knowledgeable people, but there's certain people in other traditions have more power than Kemites. I know some people that practice Ifa that has more power than Kemites. But what good is power? What good is knowledge without wisdom? So all of that means nothing if you don't have the wholesome cultural base to disseminate that wholesomeness to your people. I don't understand. I hope y'all understand what it is that I'm saying. So in 2021, Heteru was one of the deities of the year. We also had Heteru. Remember, we always do the masculine as well as the feminine, but Geb is also one of the deities of the year. So Geb is talking about your tangible reality.
Yes.
So check it out. I say you must use everything that you know to manifest tangible and useful things in situations in your life. I repeat, you must use everything that you know to manifest tangible and useful things and situations in your life. So what does that mean? That means no more touting high spiritual philosophy. It's time to show and prove what the 5%ers used to say. No more wasting time on secret issues with one another. So some people confuse spirituality with being nice. I repeat, some confuse or try to lock spirituality into how nice you can act towards other people. In spirituality, in most spiritual traditions, you're required to show respect to one another. You don't have to be nice. And if you're a somewhat balanced person, that respect is going to be interpreted as being nice. So what's happening is so many of us are walking around with so many issues that everyone's translating everything as a shot. When I'm watching online, everybody's throwing shade. Every tradition is throwing shade. They're like, yo, what the heck is going on? How could all of these people that claim to love black people, yet we're all these people that have all this love is still just coming for one another? And you got all of these people, you have all these people doing all these positive things, and yet someone else is still telling you ain't done nothing. We're marginalizing each other's work. This is crazy. That needed to go last year. That's why we had this world crisis to let what doesn't serve us go. And that type of conversation doesn't serve us anymore. So in this year's and forward, not just 2021, I'm talking about forever, for after this, no more walking on eggshells. No one more walking on eggshells trying to walk around someone else's emotional minefield when it was you that was supposed to deactivate your emotional minefield if you were using the tools that you were taught. That old way of thinking that I've been discussing is no longer functional It's no longer feasible for us. That's the only thing stopping us. It ain't no white folks. It ain't the power that be. It ain't knowledge of law and all that. It's us. It's our ability to act right or our failure to act right that's stopping us because we don't want to respect what's sacred to one another. Because I read all the sacred traditions and it's all talking about getting in tune with your source, your culture, and your ancestors. Yet we find ways to just not recognize that. You cannot reach me if you're disrespecting what's sacred to me. I don't want to hear nothing you saying. I don't care what you posted online. If you taking a shot at me, I'm not talking about me personally. I'm talking about the general personality that people have. If you're taking shots at what's sacred to somebody, you've already failed. You already put up a wall that's going to affect how you're able to relate with one another. So that behavior is no longer sustainable. So Geb is saying, get real. If you got, if you purchase, I suggest you purchase the reading of the year, which is the audio file, as well as a first quarter analysis of what certain Kesu ritual that we should be doing for the first quarter. Every quarter there'll be a new updated version on what we do for that quarter. So when we're speaking in here, I'm speaking coming from that. That becomes our text or our Bible for the year in conjunction, in relationship to the ancient text. So with us, our deity didn't put a period at the end of the sentence with the ancient text. It's a comma, and the conversation continues to go on. We have a live conversation with our creator and our ancestors, so we're not stuck in static quotes and books from ancient times. So Geb is saying, get real. So Geb is talking about your physical reality, and that represents your physical body also. It also is talking about how you digest and assimilate life experiences. So when you eat food, you have to digest and you have to assimilate. After you digest and assimilate, now that creates or transforms what's called available energy. You need available energy to achieve your goals. So Geb is talking about digesting and assimilating our experience. So now this experience, what we were talking about at the beginning, everything, this world that we're living in is just an illusion. What is a lie agreed upon? Life as we know it is a lie agreed upon. I say an illusion agreed upon. And so if you vote or something like that, that's you enforcing this lie agreed upon, this illusion agreed upon. If you believe in white power, you've enforced this lie or illusion that we've all agreed upon. And there's some black folks that consider themselves white. So if you believe in this concept of white power, whether you're European or black, it's illusion. And if you, those who believe in black power, which oftentimes is an emotional reaction to what people think white power is, that's reinvesting or reinforcing this illusion. So we've invested so much time and energy into this illusion or this lie that we have no more time, energy, and availability for the deeper realities that we're creating from reading all these books and going through initiations into our traditions, and we're waiting for these other realities to manifest, but they can't manifest because we keep reinforcing in the lie or the illusion that's been established by other people or their version of reality that's got enforced upon us, and we're still caught up reacting and responding to other people's reality. And that's why now we get to what you was talking about, why it's profound or why it's necessary to practice ritual, which is the word kesu. You need kesu. You need kesu in commitment. If you don't have kesu in commitment, your kesu, your ritual is empty. And so that a lot of that's going on in our community too. Sometimes ritual could appear to have nothing to do with your immediate concern. And that's why some people be like, oh, does a ritual even work? And that's why some people are saying, is it pseudo? Because sometimes the ritual doesn't look like it has anything to do with anything. I'm a child of the 80s, not a child of the 80s. I was in my, how old
He
was
was a
it?
teenager in the
Yeah.
He was
80s.
only like 10.
He was a teenager in the 80s.
Close to 10.
So I don't know if y'all remember, we had the Kung Fu movies on Channel 5. They used to come on every Saturday. Fan of that. That was a very impactful part of my life. And there's a constant theme in the martial arts movie. It's about training sequences and stuff. So you have these storylines where a person would come to a master, whether they needed revenge or to avenge their family or whatever. some type of justice, they would come to this master and claim, I'm going to submit to you if you teach me this kung fu. And then they would have the person doing all types of stuff that looks like it had nothing to do with kung fu. They be having them wash dishes, they have them do like weird routines or dangerous routines, and then eventually they even start questioning the master that they pose their fealty to. Hey master, when am I gonna learn kung fu? You know, that was the voice. So, master, why am I doing this? And that's the same thing people are treating, or that's the same attitude people come to spirituality. So they come in, they get initiated, and they want the David Copperfield, David Blaine type magic, and it doesn't work like that. And it could work like that if you were really in tune with your energy. But what we're talking about is long processes of growth, long cycles of growth. That's how this thing works. It's not an abracadabra type thing.
Right.
So what happens in these movies, they do what you call so when they're washing dishes and they're doing the weird routines and stuff, that's called in martial arts attribute training. So when you come in, you think at the door you want to learn all the pretty forms that you've seen the master and the other masters do that's been doing it 30 years, not realizing that that's the result of 30 years of doing the same thing over and over. Where you start tapping the inner dimensions of that thing. It's not on the surface. It's not going to be there in the first year. It's not going to be there in the second year. You lucky if it start manifesting in the 7th to the 10th years. But that's what's required when coming into these paths. You have to be so committed to the process till the spirit of that tradition reveals itself to you. You can't just demand God or the ancestors show themselves to you.
Right.
Who are you? You the one that have to prove yourself worthy of that level of vibration and that level of frequency. And if you're not up for it, that same thing that you think you're asking for could kill you. I've seen some people lose their mind because they went through certain initiations too fast. So it's called attribute training. They could just have you doing something like this that has nothing to do with water, not realizing that that's a block, and that's a parry, that's a grab. So it's not till like 5 years later, like, oh, then 5 years later, you looking pretty, as well as being able to use that stuff for application later on down the line. So the lesson of Haru for this year is to fall in love with the process. Don't worry about the goal. Don't worry about the destination. Give yourself over to the process and let your creator and your ancestors handle the rest. Stop micromanaging the creator and the ancestors. They heard you the first time, but did you hear yourself the first time when you put out there what you wanted? So when you do dua'u, that's pulling in cosmic energy. When you go to the altar, that's pulling down and in cosmic energy. And for those who practice animal sacrifices, that's pulling down cosmic energy. When you do the yoga and the meditation, that's pulling down cosmic energy. But it's not just pulling it down, it's alchemy. It's long cycles of growth. It's like cooking food. We know microwave food is bad for you, so we understand the best food is the food that needs to be cooked on the stove, where you have to manage it, where you have to look over it. You can't just turn the flame up high thinking it's going to do what it do. So these energies are percolating in you. They're retuning, redefining, and upgrading your energy over a long course of time. So if you keep your body limber, and if you give your body the nutrients and the things that it's supposed to, and if you keep your mind calm, and if you keep presence of mind, then you will become an exceptional human being. Then you will become a force to be reckoned with. So for the initiates, especially the initiates here, when we gave you Kesu, the ritual, the Wab, the Dua'u, food blessing ritual, whether it's candle work, whatever, all of that. Stop trying to stack up rituals and more rituals because you're looking for something else. Like, no, you're doing your Kesu, but are you really doing it?
Yes.
So I want you all to contemplate a Kemetic proverb that says, every gesture is a world to be mastered.
Yes.
So now, with that, every gesture is a world to be mastered. So now go back to every ritual that you've done. Instead of saying, I know that and I do it, have you mastered it? Because each ritual, every ceremony is a gesture towards something. So if it didn't deliver what you believe to be the desired effect, you have to go to deeper dimensions of it. I hope y'all understand. I said this year, from now on, you have to go higher as well as deeper into what it is that you're purporting. And lastly, what you want to say something?
I was just gonna say all of this speaks to the hashtag manage your ego, because our egos want everything to happen fast, and we get frustrated and we get disappointed because we did it, and we didn't get what we wanted, and so we start doubting ourselves. We start doubting whether or not it's real. We start, our egos start getting loud and start wanting to get distracted and start wanting to blame somebody else and et cetera, et cetera. Like, no, put that to sleep, put that to bed. Tell the ego to be quiet, because it's not like, at the end of the day, like, if you don't have faith in your own ability, if you don't have faith in the teacher's ability, if you don't have faith in the possibility of it happening, your ego will talk you out of it right at the brink of your breakthrough.
That's
Your
right.
ego will pull you away from it. You be 5 seconds away from your biggest magical possibilities, and your ego will be like, go ahead and give up on that. And you'll miss out on it. So manage your ego this year. Your ego is going to try to stop you from the breakthroughs and the breakouts and the leveling up that you ready for and you need to have if you just work a little bit harder and a little bit longer. Just devote yourself a little longer. Just push a little harder, and you will get there.
Here you go. So in closing, goes back to minding your mind and managing your ego. And the ego works both ways. So you got the overinflated sense of self, and then you got the low self-esteem. So you got to manage that low self-esteem also. So if you're going to believe that you're a divine being having a human experience, then accept that, then live in that. So be that divine being, be that godly being through every shift, change, and transformation. Handle it like a divine being. That's your challenge this year, with minding your mind and managing your ego. And conversely, just because you fail in something does not mean that you're a failure. So you have to manage your ego in that sense too. So now it goes back to every gesture is a world to be mastered. Learn to, just contemplate the wisdom of that. Every gesture is a world to be mastered. So I'll leave it on that.
Do on that too. Do on that too. Okay, again, we thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that you got some insight into some things that you need to work on in the upcoming weeks and days, and that this conversation helps you to stay grounded in your culture and stay focused and gives you the inspiration and the empowerment that you need to live in Ma'at as we go forth. If you got something out of today, you enjoyed spending time with us today, in reciprocity, we appreciate any and all donation that you're able to give back to our mission and to the work that we do here in the Temple of Anu. You can send a donation on Cash App, $ Temple of Anu, or by PayPal, templeofanu@gmail.com. Again, we just greatly appreciate you all's energy and the reciprocity that you all send to us, energetically, both in physical energy and in the form of money, and in the energy that you guys give us in the righteous and respectable chat, and your likes, your thumbs ups, your loves, your hearts, and all of that. We really, really appreciate it. Don't forget, next Sunday is our orientation for First Eye on Kemet, and then we will see you all back here in this space in 2 weeks for our next regularly scheduled communion. 2 weeks from today, and so we look forward to spending time with you guys again. Until then, you can follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, reach out to Nasa. You can friend him on Facebook now. And
once again, coming soon, the God Mentality Podcast next month, as well as the King's Corner of the Manosphere on YouTube.
Yes, do on that too. So look out for those as well. All right, everybody, show me what's up. The X up there.